here's Brody Brazil.
If you've got something to share with this YouTube channel, phone it in right now at 8334-BRODY. Could be a question, a comment, a compliment, or any type of contribution. I literally listen to every single message you leave, and then I get to play back and respond to the very best ones.
Hello, this is Joseph. I'm calling from Daly City, California.
All right.
I'm calling to get your thoughts on the new Women's Baseball League that was just announced. The four-city league, including New York, L.A., and San Francisco.
And Boston.
I'm calling to see how you would ensure that league is successful, because, in all honesty, representation like that can only be beneficial for not just females in the sporting world, but just the sporting world as a whole. So, if possible, I just want to hear your opinions on the league itself and how to make sure that enough eyes are on it for it to be a success. Thanks, Brody.
Joseph, I appreciate the call. You're right around the corner for me here in the Bay Area. I've got two main things about this new professional baseball league for women. Number one is that I'm curious about how it might go. Like, there's a lot to handle when you're starting something brand new, and it's just a lot of undertaking. The other part is I'm rooting for it. Like, even against any specific odds, and the fact that the marketplace is so crowded right now with different sports and different leagues and trying new things, and they don't always last. I'm rooting for this to succeed. So curious and hopeful. That being said, I've got some hope and worry to share about the league. To your point, what should they do? What should they avoid for the best chance at success? I've got that in just a second. But first, I feel like I need to detail this. I'm not sure enough people are understanding what the Women's Pro Baseball League is all about. They're about to have their player draft next month in November of 2025. Games will begin in May of 2026, which I think is a good time. The weather's better. School is generally getting out. If you start this in April, you're just up against too many things with the baseball season also starting. You're a little bit past the regular hockey and basketball seasons. So you kind of have more of the sporting landscape to yourself in the month of May. It's going to be a 4-team league, as you mentioned, with teams, now I say located in Boston, New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. I think for this initial season, they're only going to use 1 or 2 venues. It's going to be a neutral site league because, you know what, those are great cities, but they're far apart, and traveling like that is not conducive to scheduling or costs or logistics, or there's a lot of reasons why that's just really hard to pull off. So at first, just 1 or 2 venues for the entire league for the entire season, but 4 teams. They're going to play 7-inning baseball games. The seasons are going to last 7 weeks. So I think it's like 4 weeks of regular season, 1 of an all-star type situation, and then 2 more weeks of playoffs. They're going to have 15-player rosters, so not actually a super deep roster. They're only going to play 2 games per week, really more like 2 games per weekend, because I think it's a Thursday through Saturday schedule. So you either play Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. So only 60 total players to start with in this league. They're going to use aluminum bats, and the players are going to be paid by draft position. And look, with a startup like this, you can't imagine that the compensation is going to be fair or great, but this is how things start, and everybody's got to have a little bit of buy-in if they really want to make this succeed over the long term. This is just initially how they're starting. Again, teams with city names, but not really playing in those cities, from my understanding. I don't even know to this point if they have identified the main city that they'll be playing all these games in, or where you can watch, or anything like that. Again, details to come. So now I want to get to this part, the hope and worry that I have for the Women's Pro Baseball League. And again, I've said I'm curious about this, and I'm hopeful for this, but I also have a little bit of worry in this as well too. One of my main worries is that if we're talking about the best participants, the best athletes for this Women's Pro Baseball League, I feel like softball has taken a lot of that market, maybe even away from women's professional baseball, because softball is so huge. And the pipeline really is there for softball. And by the way, there is also an emerging softball league called Athletes Unlimited, which Major League Baseball had just recently invested in within the last year, and that's going to be kicking off later this summer. More on that in just a second. I guess what I'm worried about is almost that softball has many of the right athletes, and softball is just a little bit of a different variant. I mean, if you're a softball player, could you play in the Women's Pro Baseball League? Of course. But even the pitching motion being underhand versus overhand, or the dimensions of the field, and I do think that a lot of times it's still harder to hit a softball based on the short distance between the pitching mound and home plate, like 45 feet, and how that ball is rising and how fast it's going. The point is that these are similar enough sports, softball and baseball, but they're different enough, and to the point where some softball players have committed to saying, well, softball is my thing and I play softball and this is what I grew up on. So I don't know if they're going to have the transition enough for enough super talented women's pro baseball players. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say is that softball is its own thing with its own pipeline. It has taken away probably some of the best athletes for pro baseball contention on the women's side. And I don't know if baseball is really going to be able to showcase, 60 players, we're not talking about 600, but again, I worry that the pipeline may not be there because of softball's existence and obviously softball's existence with this brand new league. I do hope, let's get to a positive side. I do hope that this league is going to make all their games super accessible and take a page out of the Savannah Bananas book, take a page out of the PWHL's book, the Professional Women's Hockey League book. They put all of their games free on YouTube. Now, I get it. That's not the best marketing strategy because what if a television partner would give you a certain amount of money to televise those games? Problem is, you're then on a cable channel that people can't find. They weren't flipping past it. You're off in obscurity. And if you're trying to get your league to grow, it's got to be in front of people who otherwise weren't going to be finding it. So my point is the PWHL has done such a tremendous job by putting all of its games on YouTube. They have seen exponential growth because of that. Sure, you're taking a hit on the TV revenue, but at first when anything is starting, how much are you going to get? Now, the Savannah Bananas, they have taken some steps, right? But when they were starting and doing it for free, they were in the same spot. But you've seen how they've grown, and now they're adding the ESPN deal and the Fox deal on top of what they were already doing. They're just a few steps ahead in the evolution here, but this is how you have to start it. I hope they'll make all of their games free and easy right here on YouTube. I do think that's the best strategy from the start. It also has to be well produced. It's got to look like a professional major league quality broadcast. The PWHL does that. The Savannah Bananas do that. It can't look like an amateur's doing it. It's got to look pro level, and it's got to be free here on YouTube. I also worry that they're having these 4 teams and they're attaching city identities to them, but they won't be playing there. You know what I'm saying? Like you're trying to get people in San Francisco and Boston and LA and New York excited, and then we'll come to find out that all the games are going to be, I don't know, out east or out west, or they can't even do a split, maybe half the league in the west for the first part and then half the games out in the east. I don't know how they're going to do this, but that's a little bit of my worry is that sometimes if you bring a new team to a new city and they're there, there's a connection, there's a bond, there's a fan base that gets built. If they're never actually playing in the city whose name they wear across their chest, it doesn't have that connection. Now, again, that's part of my hope here is that the league exists long enough. More on that in just a second. I also have the worry about the Athletes Unlimited Softball League. That softball league has been going on for a while, but it just got an infusion of cash and involvement by Major League Baseball. They also recently signed an ESPN contract. So the Athletes Unlimited Softball League is a couple steps ahead. And again, whether it's the talent pipeline, whether it's attention, whether it's the synergy that they'll have with Major League Baseball, the Women's Pro Baseball League should eventually be getting that same treatment. Problem is they need to probably exist for long enough for baseball to attach itself. So the last thing here is that my hope is that the league lasts long enough, right, to bring these teams to their respective cities. I still think it's hard, right? If you were an all East Coast league or an all West Coast league, you could keep your travel simple and logistical. Eventually, they're going to have the problem of, we've got to fly entire teams from LA to New York to Boston to San Francisco. You can manipulate the schedule enough to minimize it, but at some point, like having these teams in the big markets, that's a big way to go, but it's also an expensive way to go. And we'll see if they can eventually get those teams to those cities. If you last a year, if you last 2 years, and eventually the San Francisco team is playing in San Francisco. Now, what ballparks are we talking about? What's the right size ballpark? Do you really want to put something brand new in a 35,000 seat stadium? I don't know. There's a lot to think about and consider here when it really comes to what's next. But honestly, what's first matters most and how this league launches. So I'll be paying attention in May. I'm sure I'll do some breakdown videos once the league gets underway. But let me know your comments and thoughts down below in the comments section. Also, thumbs up while you're there. Really appreciate your support. That helps me, this video, and this channel. And if you're new here, make sure you tap that subscribe button because I would love to see you back here next time.